A nation watched in shock and disbelief as Paul Michael Merhige was apprehended for the brutal murders of 4 of his own family members. The news spread like wildfire, leaving people across the country stunned and horrified. Merhige, a seemingly ordinary man, had become the center of an intense manhunt that gripped the nation. For days, law enforcement agencies worked tirelessly, following leads and tips from the public, determined to bring him to justice. The search was relentless, with officers combing through neighborhoods, forests, and even remote areas, leaving no stone unturned. His arrest brought a wave of relief but also left a community and a nation grappling with the horrific act he had committed. The shockwaves of his actions were felt far and wide, as people tried to comprehend how such a tragedy could occur within a family. Vigils were held, and communities came together, holding candles and offering prayers for the victims and their grieving families. The weight of his crimes was immense, forever tainting the memory of Thanksgiving for those who knew the victims. The holiday, once a time of joy and togetherness, was now overshadowed by sorrow and loss. Families who had gathered to celebrate were now left to mourn, their hearts heavy with grief. Memorials were set up, and people left flowers, notes, and mementos, paying their respects to the lives that were so tragically cut short. Merhige's capture marked the beginning of a long and painful journey for the families left behind, as they sought justice and understanding in the wake of unimaginable loss. The courtroom became a place of both confrontation and closure, where emotions ran high, and the quest for justice was paramount. Family members attended the proceedings, their faces etched with pain and determination, hoping that the legal system would provide some semblance of peace. The nation mourned with them, united in their grief and outrage. Flags were flown at half-mast, and moments of silence were observed in schools, workplaces, and public spaces. The collective sorrow was palpable, as people from all walks of life came together to support the grieving families. Candlelight vigils were held across the country, symbolizing the nation's solidarity and shared pain. The arrest of Paul Michael Merhige was not just the end of a manhunt but the beginning of a long road to healing for a community and a nation scarred by his actions. On Thanksgiving Day 2009, the Merhige family gathered in Jupiter, Florida for what should have been a joyous celebration. Instead, the day ended in unimaginable horror. Paul Michael Merhige, a troubled soul harboring deep-seated anger, turned the festive occasion into a bloodbath. Armed with a handgun, Merhige opened fire on his own flesh and blood, mercilessly killing his aunt, Raymond Joseph, his twin sisters, Carla Merhige and a pregnant Lisa Knight, and his 6-year-old cousin Michaela Sitton. The idyllic Thanksgiving gathering was shattered, transformed into a scene of carnage and despair. As news of the massacre spread, a nationwide manhunt ensued. Law enforcement agencies across the country joined forces, determined to bring the cold-blooded killer to justice. The FBI, working in tandem with local authorities, launched a massive search effort, following every lead and pursuing every tip. The manhunt extended far beyond the borders of Florida, as authorities believed Merhige could be anywhere. Days turned into nights as investigators worked tirelessly, driven by the knowledge that a dangerous fugitive was on the loose. The nation held its breath, waiting for news of Merhige's capture. In an effort to expedite the capture of Paul Michael Merhige, authorities announced a hefty $100,000 reward for information leading to his arrest. The reward, a testament to the gravity of the crime, reflected the urgency with which law enforcement sought to apprehend the fugitive. The public was urged to come forward with any information, no matter how seemingly insignificant. Billboards bearing Merhige's image were erected across the country, serving as a constant reminder of the heinous crime and the ongoing search. The reward money, a powerful incentive, encouraged citizens to be vigilant, transforming ordinary people into potential key witnesses. The case took a significant turn when it was featured on the popular crime-solving show, America's Most Wanted. This show has a long history of aiding law enforcement by bringing unsolved cases to the public's attention. It has been instrumental in capturing fugitives and solving cold cases, thanks to its wide reach and dedicated viewership. The show, known for its ability to reach millions of viewers and generate valuable tips, provided a national platform to highlight the search for Merhige. America's Most Wanted has a unique format that not only informs but also engages the audience, making them active participants in the pursuit of justice. This engagement is crucial, as it turns ordinary viewers into potential informants who can provide critical information. I, John Walsh, host of America's Most Wanted, felt a deep personal connection to the case, as it resonated with the tragic loss of my own son. This personal tragedy has fueled my passion for helping other families find justice. Over the years, I have seen firsthand how the power of television can bring about real change and closure for grieving families. I use the show's platform to appeal directly to the public, urging anyone with information to come forward. My appeals are heartfelt and sincere, as I understand the pain of losing a loved one to violence. The public's response to these appeals has been overwhelming, often leading to crucial breakthroughs in cases that seemed unsolvable. The episode featuring Merhige's case reached millions of viewers, generating a surge in tips and leads for investigators. The influx of information was a game-changer, providing new avenues for the investigation. Each tip was meticulously reviewed by dedicated investigators who worked tirelessly to piece together the puzzle. The collaboration between the show, the public, and law enforcement exemplifies the power of community in solving crimes and bringing fugitives to justice. Acting on a tip from a vigilant motel owner who had seen Merhige's profile on America's Most Wanted, law enforcement officials descended upon a modest motel in the Florida Keys. The motel owner, Melinda Pfaff, recognized Merhige from the show and immediately contacted authorities. Her quick thinking and bravery proved instrumental in bringing an end to Merhige's weeks-long run from justice. Merhige, who had been hiding in plain sight under an assumed name, was taken into custody without incident. The news of his capture sent shockwaves across the nation, bringing a sense of relief and closure to a case that had captivated the public's attention. Following his arrest, Michael Merhige was extradited back to Palm Beach County, Florida, to face justice for his heinous crimes. The community, still reeling from the shock, watched closely as the legal process unfolded. He was charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder, each representing a life tragically cut short, and 1 count of attempted first-degree murder, highlighting the brutal nature of his actions and the lives forever altered by his rampage. The evidence against him was overwhelming, leaving little doubt of his guilt. Detailed forensic analysis, eyewitness testimonies, and the chilling 911 calls painted a vivid picture of the horror that unfolded. The trial, a somber affair, captivated the nation as the prosecution presented a compelling case, detailing the horrific events of that fateful Thanksgiving Day. The courtroom was filled with an air of solemnity, as the gravity of the crimes weighed heavily on everyone present. The jury, visibly shaken by the evidence, found Merhige guilty on all counts. Their deliberation was thorough, reflecting the seriousness of the charges and the need for a just verdict. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, ensuring that he would spend the rest of his days behind bars. This sentence brought a measure of closure to the grieving families, though the scars of that day would remain forever. The aftermath of the tragedy saw the community coming together in mourning and solidarity. Memorials were held to honor the victims, and support groups formed to help those affected cope with their grief. News coverage of the trial and its outcome was extensive, reflecting the widespread impact of the case. Community gatherings and support group meetings became a source of strength for many as they navigated the long road to healing. Inside the prison, Merhige's life was a stark contrast to the freedom he once knew. He would now face the consequences of his actions daily, with no hope of release. The prison system, while ensuring justice, also highlighted the importance of rehabilitation and the complexities of dealing with such heinous crimes. The courtroom, once a place of intense emotion and legal battles, now stood silent. The case of Michael Merhige would be remembered as a tragic chapter in the community's history, a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the enduring quest for justice. While the guilty verdict brought a sense of justice, it did little to ease the pain and suffering of the victims' families. The Sittons, who lost their precious daughter Michaela in the massacre, filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Merhige's parents, alleging negligence. They argued that Merhige's parents should have been aware of their son's mental instability and taken steps to prevent the tragedy. The lawsuit, while unsuccessful, highlighted the complex emotions and legal battles that often follow such horrific acts of violence. The families, forever bonded by tragedy, continued to navigate their grief and loss, seeking solace and support from one another. The stench hit them first, acrid, chemical, the smell of death. 2 Knox County officers responding to a worried coworker's call stepped into the house on West Highland Avenue. They had no idea what awaited them. Groceries lay scattered across the floor, a sign of a life interrupted, but something was terribly wrong. The air was thick with a sinister silence, broken only by the buzzing of flies. Then they saw it. A severed hand, dismembered body parts floating in plastic bins, a human head simmering in a pot on the stove. This was no ordinary crime scene, this was a nightmare. This was the home of Joel Guy Sr. and Lisa Guy, a seemingly ordinary couple about to embark on their retirement dreams. But their dreams and their lives had been savagely extinguished. Their killer? Their own flesh and blood. Joel Guy Sr., a pipeline engineer, and Lisa Guy, a human resources professional, were living the American dream. Hard-working and dedicated, they had built a good life for themselves and their children. Retirement was on the horizon, a time to travel and enjoy the fruits of their labor. They had recently sold their Knoxville home, a testament to their success. Soon they would move to a new chapter in their lives, a chapter filled with relaxation and cherished moments with family. Their daughter Amanda was a bright young woman building her own life, but their son, Joel Jr., was a different story. He was troubled, a constant source of worry for his parents. Little did they know that their own son harbored a darkness that would shatter their world, a resentment that would soon explode into unimaginable violence. Joel Michael Guy Jr. was an enigma. Born in 1988, he was a stark contrast to his accomplished parents and sister. Unemployed and adrift, he lived off his parents' generosity, a burden they bore with a mixture of love and frustration. He was a loner, socially awkward and withdrawn. His only solace seemed to be the online world, where he spent countless hours escaping into virtual reality. But behind the computer screen, a sinister plan was brewing. Joel Jr. resented his parents' success, their impending retirement a constant reminder of his own failures. The thought of them enjoying their newfound freedom while he remained dependent infuriated him. Their decision to cut him off financially was the final straw. In his twisted mind, they deserved to be punished, and he would be their judge, jury, and executioner. Thanksgiving 2016, a time for family, for gratitude, for togetherness. The Guy family gathered for what would be their final meal together. The atmosphere was tense, the unspoken tension hanging heavy in the air. Joel Sr. and Lisa had made a difficult decision. They loved their son, but his constant reliance on them was draining their resources and their spirits. It was time for him to stand on his own 2 feet. They announced their plans to cut off his financial support. Joel Jr.'s reaction was chilling. He seethed with quiet rage, his eyes burning with resentment. The seed of a horrifying plan was taking root. As the family shared the remnants of the meal, they had no idea that death lurked in their midst, that the son they had raised would soon unleash a torrent of unimaginable violence upon them. In the days that followed, Joel Jr. retreated into his own twisted world. He isolated himself from everyone, cutting off all ties with friends and family. His mind became a dark labyrinth of sinister thoughts and malevolent intentions. Fueled by anger and a perverse sense of entitlement, he meticulously planned his parents' demise. His rage was like a fire, burning hotter with each passing day, consuming any remnants of humanity he had left. This would be no crime of passion, but a cold and calculated execution. Joel Jr. approached his plan with the precision of a surgeon, leaving no room for error. He knew that any mistake could lead to his downfall. He researched the most effective ways to kill, to dismember, and to dispose of a body. His search history became a chilling catalog of death, filled with methods and techniques that would make even the most hardened criminal shudder. He meticulously marked out each step on a notepad, ensuring that every detail was accounted for. His notes were filled with diagrams and instructions, a blueprint for the perfect crime. He purchased knives, chemicals, and cleaning supplies, each item chosen with a specific purpose in mind. The hardware store became his hunting ground, a place where he could gather the tools of his dark trade. Transforming their home into a macabre workshop of death, he set up a workspace filled with ominous tools and supplies. The once warm and loving home now felt like a scene from a horror movie. He documented his plans in a chilling journal, a testament to his depravity. Each page was filled with dark drawings and detailed notes, a window into his twisted mind. The journal was more than just a plan, it was a manifesto of evil, a declaration of his intent to commit the unthinkable. Every detail, every step was laid out with chilling precision. He left nothing to chance, ensuring that his plan would unfold exactly as he envisioned. This was not the work of a loving son, but of a monster hiding in plain sight. To the outside world he appeared normal, but beneath the surface a storm of malevolence was brewing. He blended into the crowd, wearing an innocent facade that hid his dark secret. No one suspected the evil that lurked within him. The stage was set for a horrifying act of familial betrayal, a crime that would forever change the lives of those involved, a crime that would shock even the most hardened investigators, leaving them questioning how such evil could exist in the heart of a family. Joel Jr. was ready to unleash his rage, a fury that had been building for years. The time had come for his dark plan to be set into motion. The first sign of trouble came when Lisa didn't show up for work. Her concerned co-worker, Jennifer Whited, contacted the authorities, requesting a welfare check on her friend. Officers Stephen Ballard and Jeremy McCord were dispatched to the Guy residence. The scene that greeted them was nothing short of horrific. The air was thick with the stench of chemicals and decay. Body parts floated in tubs filled with acid, a desperate and misguided attempt to erase his crime. Lisa's severed head sat in a pot on the stove. The horror of the scene was almost unbearable, a testament to the depths of depravity that Joel Jr. had sunk to. The evidence was overwhelming. Joel Jr. had not only murdered his parents, he had desecrated their bodies in a grotesque display of hatred and madness. The manhunt for Joel Jr. was swift and relentless. Law enforcement agencies from multiple jurisdictions coordinated their efforts, leaving no stone unturned in their pursuit. He was apprehended in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, attempting to flee the consequences of his actions. His capture was a relief to the community, but it was only the beginning of a long legal process. But there was nowhere to hide from the truth, from the gruesome evidence that would seal his fate. The crime scene was meticulously documented, every piece of evidence carefully collected and analyzed. The trial was a media spectacle, the details of the crime too shocking to ignore. Reporters from across the nation descended upon the courthouse, eager to cover every twist and turn of the proceedings. The prosecution presented a mountain of evidence, including Joel Jr.'s chilling journal, a testament to his premeditation and malice. The journal detailed his plans with a cold, calculated precision that left the courtroom in stunned silence. Despite the overwhelming evidence against him, Joel Jr. pleaded not guilty. His defense team argued that he was not in his right mind, but the evidence painted a different picture. He showed no remorse, no regret, only a cold detachment that sent shivers down the spines of those present in the courtroom. His demeanor was chilling, a stark contrast to the horror of his actions. The jury's verdict was swift and unanimous guilty. The weight of the evidence was undeniable, and the jurors did not hesitate in their decision. Joel Michael Guy Jr. was sentenced to life in prison, his freedom extinguished just as surely as the lives he had so brutally taken. The sentence brought a sense of closure to the victims' families, though the scars of his actions would remain forever. The murder of Joel Sr. and Lisa Guy sent shockwaves through the Knoxville community. It was a crime so heinous, so brutal, that it left everyone in a state of disbelief and horror. The news spread like wildfire, and the community was plunged into mourning. The brutality of the crime, the betrayal of a son, left an indelible scar on the hearts of those who knew the family. Friends and neighbors could not fathom how such a tragedy could occur within their midst. The sense of betrayal was profound, as the person responsible was someone they had known and trusted. For Amanda, the pain was unimaginable. She was thrust into a nightmare from which there was no waking. The loss of her parents was devastating, but the fact that her own brother was the perpetrator made the grief even more unbearable. In one horrifying act, she had lost her parents and her brother, her family shattered beyond repair. The home that was once filled with love and laughter was now a place of haunting memories and sorrow. Every corner of the house reminded her of what she had lost. The emotional toll was immeasurable, a burden she would carry for the rest of her life. The weight of the tragedy bore down on her, affecting every aspect of her existence. The scars, both visible and invisible, would never fully heal. The case of Joel Guy Jr. serves as a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk within the human heart, of the fragility of life, and the devastating consequences of unchecked rage and resentment. It is a stark illustration of how quickly life can change, and how the actions of one person can ripple out to affect so many others. It is a case that will forever be etched in the annals of true crime, a haunting reminder that sometimes the most terrifying monsters are the ones we invite into our homes and our lives. The legacy of this tragedy will continue to serve as a cautionary tale, a somber reflection on the potential for darkness within us all.